Greetings! Due to popular demand, I'll be showing you guys today the two setups that I've recently been using to play both the 4-3-2-1 and the 4-3-3 second variation. I've already mentioned this a couple times, but these aren't hyper meta friendly tactics. They are what I've been using personally as someone who wants to use those formations. Like, I really just want to use them. I'm simply trying to make them work as much as humanly possible in a game where, in my opinion, there are plenty of flaws that lead to these two systems not being as efficient as something else, maybe like a 4-4-2. So it goes without saying that if you're here to find the next exploit to crown you FIFA World Champion, bag yourself $500 to reinvest in FIFA points next year, this really ain't it for you. But if you want to try and make the 4-3-2-1 and or the 4-3-3-2 work as solid as possible in the FIFA 21 meta as of today, there may be a couple of things to take away from today's setup video. First things first, the 4-3-2-1, or as I like to call it, the formation that 4-3-3 lovers who play FIFA fall back on when it's time to compromise with the meta. On this page, you will find a very simple setup, just a balanced defensive style, 5 width, 5 depth, a balanced offensive style, 5 width, 6 players in the box. Personally, I suggest you start off this way too. Maybe just drop this down to 5 as well. Just start completely balanced and then experiment for yourself here, because in my opinion and in my experience, the most important thing in this formation is the actual player instructions. For the player instructions, I've kept the keeper and both center backs obviously as untouched, as more often than not you will find that is the case with everyone's setup. The fullbacks are also both untouched and completely on default settings. The most important part are the 3 center mids, and they are all 3 on stay back while attacking. No cover center, just all 3 on cover wing and all 3 on stay back while attacking. This is extremely important, and I'll explain my reasoning soon enough. One thing that is possible to do here is, if you want, you can experiment with putting the central guy on drop between defenders and cover center, and that's about it. But if you're curious as to what I'm doing myself, I am currently running all 3 of them at stay back while attacking and cover wing. By all means, test that out for yourself, see what you like with the 3 midfielders. Now moving on to the right forward and left forward, both of them are on drift wide and getting in behind, as you can see right here. Now, drift wide is optional. I've just turned it on recently. It helps a little more with the build up, but you can do whatever you like here in terms of that. I think the most important thing is just getting in behind. And then finally, nothing on the striker. He's completely default. Now, to explain the reasoning behind my custom tactics choices and player instruction choices, you have to understand that in the previous years, I loved this formation, but what I would always do without question was tell my fullbacks to stay back while attacking, and then also the central midfielder, stay back while attacking and cover the center. They were the ones who would be back and refrain from going forwards. This then allowed my midfielders to go forward and overload the defenses. They would, players like Nangolan in FIFA 17, these were the types of players that would bomb forward for me in this formations as outside midfielders. FIFA 21, though, is a game that has, quite a few flaws, and you will be vulnerable in central areas if these guys go forward and you lose possession. FIFA 21, for obvious reasons, it's just a game where second man press is inexistent, so defensively you need to be as solid as possible at all times in the middle. Passing is incredibly assisted, featuring some of your favorite 40-meter through ball spammers, and so change was needed to make this formation viable, because you would be way too vulnerable at the back, especially when you would push your outside CMs forward. That's where the idea of keeping these 3 as low as possible came from, and so to get creative, we needed the firepower to come from elsewhere, and that's where the fullbacks come in. They push forward and they give you support. Obviously, the support won't be as central as the support that you would get from the outside CMs pushing forward. I tried putting inverted runs, but it really doesn't give the same effect. But the good news is that with this setup, when you do face someone who has 30 men behind the ball and he's crowded the center, you will always have these 3 people to fall back on, and it gives you a means of quickly passing the ball around and hopefully forcing a decision to break down the bus. And if you play all 30 games a weekly, you'll know how important it is to have a solid plan against someone who is always ready to counter you, because again, he's going to have everyone crowded in the middle. You won't have time to force runs, even though that makes sense to do, and it really isn't worth the risk, because say you do force your midfielders to run in, you might get some goals, but you will also leave yourself vulnerable, because the moment they trap the ball in this area, this area, this area, this area, you are only 1 touch from behind away from getting dispossessed. And considering the game, you will concede a through ball without any of these guys being there to sort of give you that blockade in the middle, which is again where the fullbacks come from. They push forward and give you that support that you would need in terms of overlapping, while at the same time leaving this big, nice, even block that protects you defensively, but also gives you options for you to pass back when you have the ball with any of the front three, and there's nothing to do in terms of, you know, looking to dribble forward. Sometimes you got to reset the play, and they're always going to be there. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoy this adaptation, if you will, of the 4-3-2-1 to make it work with the current meta and what's currently popular in FIFA 21. Next up is also the 4-3-3 second variation. On this page specifically, the only difference you will really see, other than the fact that we are 5-5 and 5-5 as opposed to 5-5 and 5-6, is that we have fast build-up as an offensive style. Obviously, defensive style is still on balanced. I won't lie, the fast build-up instruction is not really for everyone, so if that does feel like too much, switch to balanced. The idea here though is to try and accelerate the transitioning of a formation that sometimes is a little bit too slow for me. For player instructions, keepers and C, B are untouched. This time, however, we do leave the fullbacks on stay back while attacking. For me, it feels like a bit much on this setup to have them unbalanced. The CDM will stay on stay back while attacking and cover center, and then both the right center mid and left center mid are on stay back while attacking. So the same sort of idea and mentality here, and the reason is essentially the same, guys. The way people play, particularly in champs, calls for new solutions. For me, I find no benefit in having them go forward if all they're going to do is go and stand in an extremely crowded space where they will lose the ball the minute anyone is behind them, because like I said, FIFA 21 is a game where tackling from behind is amazing. You can't outplay someone by left sticking them and forcing them behind you, because you will just lose the ball. So it's not worth the risk, especially with how through balls are and how vulnerable people and these players will make you feel on the counter. Plus, with fast build-up, they push up enough as it is, in my opinion. Now, similar to my 4-3-3 video where I did a series trying to find the best tactics for the 5th variation, I have the wingers on free roam, and then I've got nothing on the striker. And what this allows me to do is have a narrow and a wide game plan for when I really just want to try and play as much football as possible. These are the two setups I switch. I start 4-3-2-1. If that doesn't work, I see if I can go wider and spread the play out a little more. And if that doesn't work, then it is what it is. But if you follow me, you know that this year I can't get myself to do the directional nutmegs and the bridges and the skill canceling exploits, because like the word suggests, I find them exploits. I can't stand them, and I think they are awful. So when you're going through the uphill battle of playing without that stuff, you need valid options to counter what is popular. And for me, this has been helpful in providing me those options to move the ball around. Like I said though, this isn't the most efficient thing. You will have to work for your goals most of the time. But if you have been banging your head against the wall against crowded defenses and you don't have options, this may give you more freedom, especially with the midfielders not bombing forward too much. So it all comes down to letting that ball move as much as possible and really creating space and openings that way. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.